Well, hello, friends. Mark Holmes here, and as always, thank you guys for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, this literally does not work. Okay, it's been a crazy day, and, it's funny. In the last year, there are things that have happened that I never in my life would have even dreamed about. I never thought that we would actually have to be locked down because of a global pandemic. If somebody had said that to me, I would have said, "You're crazy. It can't happen." No. No. That was definitely one of those things. Another one would be, I couldn't even imagine that our capital being actually overrun by Americans. I wouldn't even, it felt like I was watching a movie today or something. It's unbelievable. But here it was. It was kind of like one of those things that you'll remember, or at least I will, like I did September 11th. I remember I was sitting at my desk at my old house. I had my friend Jim, who's no longer with us. We were there talking about, this job we were going to do, and we're watching TV, and we're seeing a plane, the second plane, fly right into the second tower. And in disbelief, everything that's going crazy, having to go up to the school and get the kids and bring them home. I remember going a couple of days later, driving by the Pentagon and still seeing it smoking and on fire. It's just like you've been a witness to history, and it's almost surreal. I pray that we can get ourselves together. I don't condone violence by anybody. Everybody has the right to speak up for themselves. But when you cross the line to injure others or destroy things or deface property, that's not what I'm talking about. Peaceful protest. And there's so many lies and conspiracies out there that you don't know what to believe. And people get off on that misinformation. People profited from it. Countries get advantages from it. But, again, when you say anything, immediately you draw condemnation. So I'm just going to stay out of that right now. I'm just going to say, I pray for all of us right now. But since we're in conspiracy theories, something hit me today driving home. To me, the best, I'm a Dak Prescott fan. Today we had Dak Prescott and everything else who was being tweeted by a Washington fan that said, "Tell your brother, if the Cowboys don't show him love, we can show him some love." And Tad was going through and tweeting back and saying things, "Hey, listen, I'm a fan of Dak Prescott. Wherever Dak goes, I will be a fan of Dak Prescott." And saying, it's nothing personal. It's a business. Now, I've been on record as saying the best thing the Cowboys can do is get a long-term deal done for Dak. Get this thing done sooner than later, so that way you can get yourself hopefully some cap relief and be able to get some free agents in free agency if that's your goal. This whole thing that you've been sold from Jerry Jones that, we pay Dak, we can't do anything. Well, it's kind of funny that we keep talking about we can't pay people. We said we couldn't pay D-Law, right? But somehow they worked that deal out, didn't they? So we can't pay Zeke. You can't reset the market. But we found a way to do that. We paid all those guys, and we still had $25 million left over from this year. As opposed to spending some money, you could have spent that $25 million on defense, or better yet, maybe that $22 million in dead money that we have from all those defensive players that, we're still paying Taco. We're still paying Brandon Carr twice. Don Terry Poe, Emerson Griffin. All these guys that we brought in, Clinton Ha-Ha-Dix, Darryl Worley, you had money right there that we could have spent on defender. But anyway, be that as it may. Be that as it may. He says we're going to spend money on the defense. I hope we spend money on the defense properly, because that's the thing. We've spent money on the defense. It just hasn't panned out, with the exception of maybe Aldon Smith. But anyway, I was sitting here thinking, if you're Dak Prescott, the holdup for the contract last year was the length of the contract. Todd France is basically looking at it and saying, I don't want to get tied up for 5 years from now, because 5 years from now, let's say $35 million is the new $20 million. 6 years ago, Drew Brees was the highest paid quarterback at $20 million. It was just 3 years ago that Kirk Cousins was the highest paid at 28. And now we're already at 45. So if you get locked up for a long-term deal, then you look at it and say, oh, all that new money comes in from gambling, from the new television contracts. Not to be greedy, but, fair is fair. And so that's why they're looking and saying, we don't want more than a 4-year deal, because we're trying to make up for all the money we didn't make for those other years. You only have X number of years to do that, right? So now the problem is, because we didn't get the deal done last year, that means this is another year that's added on to that. So even if we get 4 years, we're still talking about 2025, which is where the Cowboys were originally with the 5 years. Thing is, if you look at what they were projecting before COVID, they were saying by 2026, the salary cap will be north of $460 million, estimated, at the current growth rate and everything else, and projected revenue that they'll be getting from gambling, as well as the television contract. The Washington football team, they put on the ballot in Maryland this past November, gambling license at the stadium. So you'll be able to go to this game and be able to gamble at the stadium. You know how much more money that will bring in? People will go to FedEx Field just to gamble. It's not like usually people wanted to go to see the game. I'll be able to gamble on all the games. So if you're Dak Prescott, maybe what you really want is, you want the franchise tag. Hear me out. No, look at it this way. It's a risk. It's a risk. But you see Washington people tweeting at Tad, hey, we'd love to have you. You've seen Dak Prescott's picture on, in a 49ers uniform. Yesterday we had Bleeding Green. Hey, man, I hope the Cowboys franchise tag Dak, and maybe we can get him the next year. You've seen Chicago. I mean, literally, I had a whole collage with 4 different teams where Dak Prescott was in different teams' uniform. He is a hot commodity. Now, think about this. Kirk Cousins was franchise tagged twice. Kirk Cousins did not have the pedigree that Dak Prescott has. But guess what? The Jets were willing to give him $90 million. He settled on $88 million from Minnesota, right? Became the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. He was nowhere near the best quarterback in football. He was not. He was not. Yet, it was his turn. He got the first fully guaranteed contract, right? So, if you're Dak and you play on that franchise tag, you got $37 million guaranteed, which is right behind Deshaun Watson. But actually, it's not, because Deshaun Watson's money, it's really kind of down the road, and it's really not that much guaranteed money. I think it's only like $69 million guaranteed. Pat Mahomes' yearly thing is $45 million a year, but that 45 doesn't really kick in till way down later. The first couple of years is really chump change. So you, in fact, would be the highest paid quarterback for that year. Then, at the end of that year, the television contract gets renewed. All that new money is going to be flowing into the NFL. And remember, I told you, look, here's what you got. AT&T owns DirecTV. The problem with DirecTV having Sunday Ticket is people like me love to have Sunday Ticket, but I don't have a satellite dish. When it rains, sometimes it doesn't work real well. It's a losing proposition, and they're willing to get rid of it. You've already got YouTube in bed with the NFL for Red Zone and NFL Network. If you got YouTube Premium right now, you can watch those for free. Well, that's not for free. It's part of your package. You got Amazon Prime that has like the statistics and stuff, right? They now exclusively streamed the Cardinals 49ers game. They may want to get a piece of that TV contract. You're going to look at some companies that are going to be bidding for that Sunday Ticket. And then you got your ESPN that wants to have a Super Bowl. And you know Fox and NBC, they don't want to lose their gig. All these guys, literally, the NFL's, we're just going to write you a number, and that's what you're going to pay. Get me the big notebook because it's got a lot of zeros on it. And if that's the case, 2021 is when you want to get that contract. And here's the other thing. You also want to look at this next group of quarterbacks that start getting paid. Because, see, you first saw Kirk Cousins get his, then Matt Ryan got his at 30, and then Russell Wilson got his at 35, and Aaron Rodgers got his at 34, and Big Ben got his at 34. Then you had Carson Wentz, Jared Goff get theirs at 33. That was the new grouping of compensation. Well, the new grouping now is Pat Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, 45, 39. If you end up waiting one more year when that television contract's gone through and we're past COVID, you may be 46, 47. In the meantime, you get 37 guaranteed. Might not be the worst idea. And instead of having to deal with all the ins and outs of the Dallas Cowboys, whether or not they really love me or not, you can pick wherever you want to go. Now, I don't want Dak Prescott to go anyplace else. But, in the end, just like Tad said, it's business. And in the end, like my man DeMario said, listen, I'm an independent contractor. I get a 1099 at the end of the year. It's about me getting paid for the rest of my life. I can't do football forever. And if breaking your ankle hasn't taught you that you only have X amount of time, then nothing will. And if he takes a franchise tag, it might not be the worst thing in the world if you're Dak. Anyway. Thank you guys for listening to me. I appreciate y'all. I'm going to pray for us. I'll see you in the morning.